was there any individuals who were forcing you to make some of these decisions outside the board sanctions?
There were requests from the PS.
Okay.
There was requests from the cabinet secretary.
Which PS? He's going to give us names.
Was it written?
Susan Mochache.
Yes, yes.
There were requests from the cabinet secretary. There was an engineer, there was a brigadier, somebody, I can't remember his name. Most of them SMSs and phone calls.
He's now saying, I do not have any role in procurement, yet you are directing that that contract be signed immediately. What is your interest? Were you bribed to be able to push for that?
Instead of relying on leaked documents, you had asked for the true position. I would have given it to you.
Chair, proceed.
There is no reason to sensationalize an
Chair,
issue.
on a point of order. What does that mean to you?
Regardless of in the absent, you're saying, no, Chair, you know, the truth has got no other shades.
So I want you to stop, please, sensationalizing this issue. When you use words like the guilty are afraid, who is guilty? Who is guilty? Because at the end of the day, who are you saying is guilty?
All right, so that was the exchange at the Senate. I believe it was Friday last week, but you see there are some names being dropped there of the Cabinet Secretary and the Principal Secretary at the Ministry of Health being linked to what has been happening at KEMSA. I want to begin with you, Honorable Wanga, because when you look at this, the Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe yesterday came out and said that this matter is being politicized. How does Parliament remain part of the helping with the war against corruption, with all the investigations that they are doing, but avoiding the interference from politics?
Thank you, Sam. Sam, I think Parliament has its role cut out, and I saw that, Honorable and I already said, requested the Auditor General to conduct an audit. I'm sure even PIC would require a special audit on KEMSA so that this comes out, and that is the role of Parliament. I've seen the CEO there, and I think overall what we must do is have these matters properly investigated. And the President has said he's given the investigating agencies 21 days. Parliament has also said, as part of its constitutional mandate, to the Auditor General, please audit so that you give us a report on which we can then base our findings. So I think exchanges and the kind of thing that was happening in the Senate and so on is okay, but it does not take us to where we need to go. And where we need to go is to the bottom of the matter, so that we know who had what role. And I look at the CEO there saying, I was called, I was SMS'd. You cannot run away from your responsibility as the CEO of an organization. When you're CEO, the back of the desk, even if you receive a phone call, it is your responsibility to ensure that whatever you are doing is within the law. So I do not think that this name dropping and so on will help the CEO. So at the end of the day, let us remove politics from this matter. And some politics has gotten into the matter, because you see already people say, oh, this person should step aside, this person should resign, and so on. Once we sensationalize it, once we politicize it, we are unlikely to get to the bottom of the matter and what we are asking for, because people just keep dropping people's names. I've even had, oh, one guy is here, whoever else is there. Let this matter be properly investigated. Let those who are responsible for any loss of public money be held to account. Lakini tuache siasa ya pesa nane. Let us stop this politics of finger pointing. That will only make us lose the bigger war. So even the CEO must know he must take responsibility for his actions. And when you say so-and-so called me and so-and-so called me, it is your responsibility to ensure that everything is done within the law.
But Honorable Wanga, do you have a personal statement? Because like you said, there are those people that have been pointing fingers towards you. Do you have a personal statement in as far as this conversation is concerned? Do you ever supply to KEMSA? Never.
I have never been to KEMSA. I have never supplied. Nobody related to me has ever supplied anything to KEMSA. I have no relationship whatsoever with KEMSA. I have only been quiet because, they say when you deny SG, it is. I have nothing, absolutely. And that is why we are saying, let this matter be investigated conclusively. I saw even some, people commenting on the poster of this show that if some of these are members of the Haste. This is political witch hunt, and we have already taken legal action against those who mentioned us in this matter, and it is completely unacceptable to just keep dropping people's names on matters like this.
So you haven't done business with the Minister of Health?
Never. Zero.
Okay, I'll take that as your response. And Honorable Wandai, I'll come to you, Joy, but before that, let me speak to Honorable Wandai, because you're involved in looking at how Kenyans are getting value for their money and the money that they invest. But more often than not, we hear of senior officials. If you talk about the NYS 1 and even 2, you'll hear of situations where the Cabinet Secretary is accused of having called the Principal Secretary giving certain instructions. How much of this holds water, and how much of it is true? And where do you now put the responsibility when it comes to fiscal duty that public officials would have?
Sam, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015 is a very, very basic law. Mm-hmm. And it guides all procurement processes. It has got nothing to do with people calling others, people directing others, people instructing others. It only gives the mandate of procurement to the accounting officer of the procuring entity. And the law is very clear on which methods are to be applied in procuring what items and at what time. There is a very clear justification. For instance, if you want to procure directly, you can also do restricted tendering. Mm-hmm. And there's a clear requirement for you to do open tender process. So the accounting officers must be held accountable. They must account for their role in the procurement process within their entities.
But how do you reconcile this with the influence that comes from those that hold higher office? I'm not saying that CS Kagwe may have made those calls, but we know in the past there are people that have appeared before parliamentary committees and indicated that they received calls from cabinet secretaries or principal secretaries. How do you reconcile all those instructions?
Now, first and foremost, I've said those instructions don't apply. And if they are there, let us have the evidence. Let us get the evidence through investigations. They don't absolve the accounting officer from responsibility. And in fact, there are no two persons given the mandate to procure for an entity. It is the accounting officer. Of course, using his officers within the procurement department. Mm-hmm. So this idea of people having been instructed, having been told to do this or that, is neither here nor there. It's a red herring, in my view. Okay? And if there's evidence that somebody interfered with the procurement process, somebody outside, and there's evidence, then that person can be dealt with again, legally, through a different process. Yes.
Okay. All right. Jem Devo, you are the advocate here. So now, with all these influences being said to have come from different offices, if you watch that conversation on Friday at the Senate, the chairman was being accused of interfering with board affairs because he has written some emails giving direction, and he defends himself that we were giving direction as we are supposed to do as the board. So where do you put all this? Because these are bodies that will interact with each other. The cabinet secretary is more likely than not to reach out to the agencies under him.
What Honorable Wandai is saying is the truth, is that the accounting officer, the buck stops with him. So in all this situation, he must take his share of the responsibility. Saying I received instructions or none does not absolve him from taking responsibility, because you are a person with a brain, with a pen, with responsibility. You know very well what your role is. So he has to fall on his own sword. That one, there's no two ways about it. What needs to happen, though, is to have robust investigations to find out who else influenced that decision. Now, in Kenya, he makes such an allegation because we have had before people saying that they receive calls from above. There are times that happens, and we cannot ignore it. But also there's the notion that in such a situation, the president had spoken very clearly and had indicated no shilling of COVID should be lost. So he ought to have known that this was, quote unquote, hot potato. If they imagine that they're going to get any protection, we have seen in the past where people you collaborate with, when the rubber meets the road, they let you fry by yourself. And I think that's the position maybe that the CEO is finding himself, that he's being asked to step away from office. And people he thought would have said, yes, it's true, I'm the one who gave direction, are now all backing away, and they're saying they're not responsible. However, over and above that, one of the things that Honorable Wandai has pointed out is also where we need to go. There's the Public Finance Management Act. There's the Public Procurement Act. There is also what's in the Constitution in terms of what needs to be done in public finance management. All these things are supposed to offer, how to put it, Kenyans given value for money, that what we are paying for is actually what we need, and we are paying a fair price for it. But in Kenya, we have seen that the laws are expanded. So, for example, in this KEMSA situation, one of the biggest defenses is that, you know what, this was an emergency situation, and everything was haywire. And that's why you're finding yourself in this situation. It is very curious in Kenya. When we start talking about corruption, the first place we go is politics. And right now, I guess because Honorable Wanga is on the receiving end, she can talk about sensationalizing. But as a Kenyan, I'll tell you, all corruption matters. This is how it goes. You get to a place where the figures are thrown around. You're told T was 4 million, Towels were 20 million, facts that we cannot verify. And at the end of the day, we don't get to the bottom of the matter. We don't need an audit to get to the bottom of this. What we need is investigations. The DCI needs to move in. The EACC needs to move in. Even what Parliament is doing doesn't get us convictions. The people who will get us a conviction is the EACC, the DCI, working together with the DPP. Those are the guys who will nail the people who need to get nailed. And I would urge those ones to now also work without political interference. Forget about what's going on in the Senate. Forget about what's going on in the National Assembly. Follow what your boss has told you. You got 21 days. Nail these guys and give us credible information, because the sensationalizing and the name dropping, I agree, at the end of the day, does not serve the interests of justice.
Right, and as we begin to wind up, Honorable Wanga, as we exit the conversation, so now the President has directed that the investigations be concluded in 21 days. From my count, that would take us to 16th of September, so it's in about 15 days time from now. But also yesterday, he directed that all information about the tenders and who won and the process be made public. But it's not the first time we're hearing the President do so. In his first term, he said as much just as a ploy to, as a strategy to fight corruption, but it hasn't happened. So why should we trust the process now that is going to happen?
I think anyone looking at the President knows that he's damn serious. And those who've been given instructions either to investigate this matter within the next 21 days or to publish information on those who got the tenders at KEMSA within the next 30 days had better do so, because I think the President is very, very serious on this matter. We have seen, and it's what Wandai alluded to earlier, about the political will to fight corruption and how this has been enhanced actually since the handshake. And in the first term, we all wondered whether there was any will to fight corruption, in the last 5 years. But in this particular next 5 years, especially after the handshake, there's never been a doubt that the President is on the seriousness of the President on the matters, tackling corruption. So I want to support the position that there must be published every company that got tenders during the, for COVID, this COVID period. Every company must be published. The directors are available at the registrar of companies, so that it is open and people know who exactly benefited, so that we get to the bottom of the matter and we know whether there was loss, how much loss, and then I just sort of like to ask Joy, because she has very, very many good suggestions on amendments to the to various laws.
Right.
And we amend these laws every so often, and I want to encourage her that anytime she sees adverts on the papers for public participation on these laws, please do bring your very, very good views, so that they are always taken into account as we make these amendments. So
all right,
let's
Honorable
go
Wanga.
the full hog. Let us stop the politicization. Let us stop this, calling people names and so on, and asking people to, resign, what have you, without. Let us stop the politicization. Let us get to the bottom of the matter.
Okay.
If the investigations find you guilty, Inje kabisa.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Honorable Wanga. Someone listening to you might actually judge you because in the first time you are very upbeat about asking for people to resign because of the situation that they were finding themselves in. But all the same, we take your view saying that the president is committed to fighting corruption. Thank you for making time for us. I want to just take a look at one view from Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok, who is saying that there's general feeling on the ground that corruption cases are still being done selectively, with the governors close to the deep state being spared. Anyway, heavy penalties to the recent cases showing good direction in the near future. So that's what we have for now. Thank you so much, Gladys Wanga, Joem Divo, as well as Opio Wandai for making time for us. There's another comment here. Corruption cases are still being done selectively with the politics of 2022 in mind, though this time round, hopeless Kenyans can have something to smile about, and that is the heavy penalties. But like Joyce said, the heavy penalties or the heavy bail terms are not necessarily punishment. It's just an assurance that you will appear in court. Asante sana. Up next is Comic Tuesday with Bazu Willis Raburu. He'll be here. Kabla lale.